I try to answer 3 questions with every review that I do. The questions are, what is it about? Did I like it? And will you like it? Those are kind of the basic questions. And usually those last 2 questions are answered fairly the same. If I like it, generally I think that you might like it. And if I don't, generally I think you probably won't either, because I think we're kind of similar. This is one of those cases where I don't know that we're going to feel the same way about this movie. The movie is Haywire, and what it's about is an operative of a secret agency that is kind of under contract by governments, and it's a private contractor type agency that does dirty work for the government or for other places. And this operative, this female operative, is burnt. I think you can tell in the previews, is disowned, and they are after her. And so it's kind of the story of how she clears her name or goes after the people that are after her, or what she does in that moment. And the question about whether I like it or not, yeah, I kind of do. It has almost an Alfred Hitchcock feel to it. Now, it's not as great as a lot of those old classic Alfred Hitchcock movies are, but there's very much a sense that the director, which in this case is Steven Soderbergh, who does some amazing films, very much an independent filmmaker, you get this sense that he's very confident with what he's doing. Like, he's making very specific choices on how to frame this movie, what to do with things. I'll give you an example. For instance, during the fight scenes, which there are a lot of them, everything drops out except for the noise of the fight. And it's a very real fight noise. It's not like Hollywood sound effects. It very much feels like a real fight. He drops out all the music, any of those sound effects, and it is just the fight. And there's something very brutal about that, and there's also something very beautiful about that. In fact, this is something Hitchcock was famous for with some of his fights or murders, is that he would drop the music out and he would show you how difficult and how violent it could really be in those moments. And it's the truth of what Soderbergh does here in these fights as well, and there are many of them, and they are spectacular. It is some of the most amazing fighting I've seen on screen, and I think a lot of that has to do, again, with the way that it's presented. And then choices he makes with the music that he uses. There are also these long chase scenes, and they're not like any chase scenes you've seen before. They are very realistic, and they feel like exactly like the character in every moment makes the decision you think would be the decision a normal person would make in escaping from something. It just feels very, very real. And I really like that. I like when a director is confident in that way and can do those things. And so I come away from this movie going, yeah, that's something I really like, something I enjoy. I like seeing a director work, and make those choices. But here's the thing, and the reason I don't think you may like this movie, it can feel kind of boring. And I think the reason comes down to there's very little motivation in this movie. There's very little spark. Like, there's no life to it. It doesn't feel like it means anything. Like, it doesn't feel like there's anything supremely interesting about it, or that makes you go, oh yeah, that's interesting. There's none of that. It feels very matter of fact. In fact, if I had to give a 3-word review of Haywire, it would be matter of fact. It's just like, this is what happened. And there's not really plot twists to speak of. There's not really any kind of engaging visuals that you haven't necessarily seen before, except for maybe the fighting. And the performances are very matter of fact as well. I should mention the lead performance from the girl in this is actually her first, and I think she's a very famous, popular mixed martial artist, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not into that world, so I don't know. But my understanding is she was kind of plucked out of that world so that those fights would look more realistic and feel more real, and not like a lot of the fake fighting that you see in movies. And I think that decision paid off. The fights definitely do feel more real. And she gives an impressive performance for it being her first time doing this. But as far as an overall performance, matched up against other performances, it's just matter of fact. It is what it is. That's what Haywire is. It is what it is. So a movie, again, that I kind of enjoyed just for kind of the essence of what the director was trying to do in the way I watch movies, but I'm not so sure that you will.